Welcome back to Season 2 of Deviatus. You're listening to Episode 21 with special guests Nicole Shuck and Stan Thompson from San Diego Paranormal Eye. This is part 2 of a multi-episode series on the infamous Sallie House. Last time I spoke with Denise Pridemore about some of the history of the house and her experiences there, which were truly alarming. If you haven't checked that out yet, you can listen at deviatus.com/Pridemore. And of course, there was a bonus episode which aired last week. You can look at that one at deviatus.com/20.5. Or, I guess to make things simple, you can just subscribe to the show. If you haven't yet heard of San Diego Paranormal Eye, I had them on the show way back in episode 5, and I'll link to that in my show notes. But I wanted them to return because in October of 2016, they traveled to Atchison, Kansas to investigate the Sallie House. Now, this is the team I've been going out to do some consistent investigations with on the weekends. They're actually still reviewing their evidence from the October investigation at Sallie House, but they were kind enough to share some of what they captured so far with me to air on this podcast, so please stick around. I'll share those clips towards the end. There's quite a few of them from various investigation techniques, so you're not going to want to miss that. Without further delay, here's the team from San Diego Paranormal Eye. Well, yeah, if you guys want to start, maybe if you could just each introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about, what got you into paranormal research and maybe how your style of investigation might be different than the next guy out there doing paranormal investigations.
I guess I'll start by letting you guys know SDPE. I guess we've been in existence about 5 to 6 years now. And my name is Stan Thompson, by the way, and I'm president of SDPE, but we try to run it. Everybody on the team has specific gifts, and when you put it together, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and it really, really works well. I think the thing that really sets us apart is the fact because I've been on other teams also, is the fact that we go in and we try to listen to and learn from what they're saying, and we try to help the spirits if in any way possible, because we do run into a lot of troubled souls, and it gives you a good sense of feeling, knowing that not only are you going in to see if something is in a certain place, but if there is something there, you're trying to help them. So, okay,
and Nicole.
Yeah, I'm Nicole, and I've been with San Diego Paranormal Eye for about a year. I've been doing this off and on for about 10 years. I just was really excited when we decided to do the Sallie House, because I think my actual introduction to paranormal, and I think I've talked to you about that, Jeremy, was, I was about probably 12 or 13 years old, and the show Sightings came on. And at the time, I was living in a really haunted house, where there was a lot of not great things. There was a lot of negative energy there and a lot of negative things happening. And it was different from what you see on the movies. And when that show came on, the Pickmans came on with a Sallie House. And they were telling what was going on. And it was actually very similar to what I was experiencing at the house at the time, and my family was. And it kind of made me feel like I wasn't alone with it. And I feel like that was like my little door to getting into what this was, and to help other people, since I know what that meant. So I kind of do the home traffic the home coordination for this stuff. So whenever we're coordinating in between a residential house casing, I'm always the one who talks to everybody. I get everybody on the same dates and everything, and then I feel like sometimes I'm a quasi therapist with this, because it takes a lot out of you, and these people come to us for help, and they don't know exactly what they're dealing with, and if they're crazy or not, and you kind of have to walk them off that cliff and calm them down with it.
Well, I love that you mentioned the Pickmans and the Sightings episode, because we're actually recording on, for those listening, recording on the day that I released the season 2 premiere with Denise Pridemore, and I mentioned that in there, where I saw that episode in high school with the Pickmans, and where Tony was getting scratched like right in front of the camera. And I had no idea when you guys investigated Sallie House that was the place where that happened until much after you investigated. So putting that together was sort of a light bulb moment for me. How did you guys end up getting the opportunity to investigate the Sallie House?
I had contacted them probably about a year before that, and we thought about doing it the year before, but it's one of those things you got to really decide you want to do that type of place. When you first go in, you see things on TV, you're like, I wonder if this is really the way it's going to be or not, But we discussed it as a team, and we decided to do it the next year. But it's really interesting that the city council actually owns the house, so you have to actually go through them to actually book the house. And I had a pretty long conversation with her, and she told me about quite a few of the home investigations that had happened there from teams coming in. So.
Was that Denise Pridemore you're referring to?
Actually, I didn't talk to Denise until probably about 6 months later. We had discussed over the phone, some things to sort of prepare going into the house. And she is so knowledgeable about that house. In fact, it was sort of funny when we first went into the house, and Denise had met us there to get us the keys, and we were she gave us sort of like her own little private tour. She does tours for people every weekend through the house, but she gave us our own little private tour. And it was sort of funny. You don't know what to expect when you're going in, but we were sort of sitting around the, I guess it would be the dining room table, and we were sort of listening to her, and I sort of looked over, and one of the people that was with her was standing beside the doorway into the kitchen, and all of a sudden I saw a little girl come up, and so I was wondering, if you indeed would see Sallie, since the house is named after her, or not. But she immediately appeared the very first time that we were there. But Denise just knows so much history about the house. It's amazing, the things that she was, that she knows and that she was telling us. So.
And I feel like when we did that walkthrough, when we first went through there, it was so funny. It was like, it was such a heavy energy when we first went in there the first time, because what they were doing that night in that month, they were having people just doing walking tours throughout the house to check everything out. And I think Denise was saying, there was like close to 100 people or 200 people going through every day during the month of October for it. And so you have a lot of people that are almost treating it like a sideshow, I feel like, and not with any respect with it, and even poor Denise, who's doing all these tours, she's trying to teach people about it. And, people leave trash or whatever, like soda bottles, and it's frustrating. And when we went on the end of the day, they were just wrapping up those tours. And the energy was just so thick and heavy. You can just feel that, like, get the hell out, this is my house kind of feeling with it. Mm-hmm. And then when we came back later that night, it had lifted. It was calmer. It was definitely calmer and quieter, I thought. Mm-hmm. So,
it was funny, Jeremy, when we were talking about the Pigments on TV. One of the shows they were on recently, the last couple of years, I think it was. But one of the first things I remember Tony saying when he went back to the house and he hadn't been there for a while is he says, as soon as he stepped through the door, he's like, oh my gosh, I'd sort of forgotten the smell of this house, Mm-hmm. And that was one of the first things. It has a very distinct smell. Along to go with what Nicole was talking about, the heavy energy that you notice immediately as soon as you walk through the front door. It's not something you have to walk through and wait to experience later. It just sort of hits you, face first when you walk through the front door.
Yeah, but that smell, you're right, because I remember it was just in my clothes and you couldn't get it out. I remember just afterwards showering nonstop, and it was just one of those things. It almost was like almost a triggering thing, and there was definitely maybe a mold issue or something, because this is an old house and everything like that too. So you try to take that into account as an investigator. But that smell, it just triggered something to where if I smell something similar, it takes me right back to that house. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No. It's with me to this day.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now, I'm not any sort of sensitive that I'm aware of, and I have a horrible sense of smell compared to the average human, I think, with all my chronic sinus infections I have. But do you think that would be something noticeable by anybody that goes in there?
Oh, yeah, because it's right by, as soon as you hit the front door by the stairwell. Mm-hmm. That's where it's most prevalent. By the little baby carriage they lay out with a creepy doll.
Yeah.
So it just hits you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, it took days for it to really, get out of your system, because I was just smelling it like all the time, like 2 or 3 days afterwards, But I think that has to do with the sensitivity, not just with it. But Nicole is right. It could have something to do with, the building of the house or mold or some type of issues. But it was just so prevalent, and it was so unexpected, I think, for myself.
And I feel like too, like, cause with my work history and what I do for a living, I know when there is mold issues or anything like that. And it's a different smell from that, but it kind of smells like that. It's like a dusty, musky smell, but it almost sounds like it's like a rotting smell too. And that's where whenever we go into home investigations, I feel like if you're smelling that or you're smelling like a copper smell or something like that, there's something there that's sometimes not the best energies.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't heard that before a couple of weeks ago. But a question for you both. I guess I like that you said that you kind of made it a team decision to go there. But I guess for each of you, what were the kind of stories about the house that made you each really want to investigate there?
Well, mine is if there's a house that has children in it that I feel like needs help, I want to help if any way possible. A lot of times children's spirits, unless they feel like you have a very pure heart or they're very standoffish, a lot of times they won't come up, they won't talk with you and everything. But when I heard that there was a child that, was there, it makes you wonder, why is she there? Does she need help? Why does she remain in this specific location? And it's just one of the things that, when I was presenting it to the group, I said, you guys know how I feel about children. I'd really like to see if there's anything that we can do to help her.
Yeah, and I feel like in regards to that too, it was just a different experience. And for me, it was mostly to go into there and you're seeing sightings and you're seeing all this stuff. And that's how I grew up. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the first house where I was like, okay, this is a genuine, somewhere there's paranormal events taking place. But also I'm a bit of a skeptic, which is weird because I am a bit of a sensitive too. And I'm always kind of fascinated by the economics behind these paranormal investigations, because you feel like a lot of these homes and stuff, it's almost a tourist attraction. And you're like, am I really going to be experiencing the real deal? Or am I going to be experiencing something where, it's just a regular house and they want to throw a haunted label on it? So they can, because obviously it's actually, it's a very expensive thing to do. You have to pay people to get in this, and then they have the tourists coming in, and it actually boosts the local economy a lot with this. So I always kind of hesitate with it. But once you get in there, you're realizing it is very much haunted, and it's definitely different from anything you've experienced. So that was like my thing. It was more like a myth busting thing, because I've heard the myth and lore, and there's all those other stories about Sallie, supposedly, and that's why I love Denise Pridemore, because she was like, no, there's no kid who's ever on record dying in that house. We don't know what Sallie is. And they're like, it wasn't a doctor's. He didn't do any practice there. And that's what I loved Denise. She really found a lot of the facts with it. So that's what I was mostly fascinated, was trying to get behind the myth and legend, try to get to the truth of things.
Would you say Denise had an impact on how you conducted your investigation?
Other than the fact of, like she told us, some specific areas, which she was very, very correct on what I was picking up with, from sensitivity. But she also told us, which equipment worked well in each area. She really didn't put that much emphasis on anything that we did, because we pretty much go in and do what we want to do. The very first thing we do when we walk into a location, and I hate to say it, it's just the way that people are. Like Nicole said, this, for a lot of towns it's a business. We were walking around the town, there were a lot of shops, they had books about the Sallie House displayed in their window, so it's sort of a thing that you could really tell that the town embraced, where a lot of towns do not. But for me, I think it was just basically, is there really, really something here? Is it not? Like Nicole said, once we walked through, it didn't take me very long through the walkthrough that I knew that something was there. Denise, like I said, she really just, told us, how other groups had investigated the house and some hot spots. But as you walk by, she was very much on par. She's sensitive also. And she was dead on with everything that she was telling us. So.
And I think with Denise too, I remember her, we already do our research before we even go into these places. More so me, I feel like, because Stan's more the least sensitive. So he doesn't really want to know a lot about the homes. And that's any investigation we go into. So he can kind of start from a blank slate. But I like Denise because she kind of already told the things that I've already researched previously. And also, that was another thing. and a lot of people don't talk about it, is it's that whole area is huge Native American activity and history right there, where a lot of that local tribes were, they were relocated to that spot, and then they were kicked off to Oklahoma during that time. So I feel like that whole town is haunted. You just go in there and you feel the energy there, and there's this low vibe with it where it's just this, you feel the history there, you feel the lore, and I feel like Denise knew that. And she just didn't want to talk about Sallie because there's other spirits there. And, I already done the research, so I knew, but then she started talking about, what was it, Eugene? The older woman. And I was like, I don't really know, and I'm always, I approach everything with really a skepticism, I feel like. And then as soon as we were setting up, I remember that was my first, full figure apparition in the house that I saw. Was we were setting up and we had some of the lights off, and I turned on the light switch, and there was a older woman right there about 2 inches away from my face. And she was just there for a millisecond. She had a bun up in her hair. She had gray hair. I think she was wearing this purple gray, I'd say early century dress. And it was mostly just checking us out. And then I swear, as soon as I blinked, she was gone. And it was funny because you were getting excited. You were doing stuff. You were looking at everything, and Greg was setting up the equipment, and I just wanted to turn on a light, no big deal. And there she was, lo and behold. So that was kind of an interesting stuff where her information really helped us with investigation, because if I saw that older lady, I'd be like, well, what the heck is that? So
I remember too, Jeremy, with the walkthrough, because Denise was, as we were going up the stairs, it's sort of the room across from the nursery on the second floor, and she really hadn't gotten to that room yet. And I remember there was a rocking chair in the room, and I said, Denise, there's an older lady that's in the rocking chair, and she said, you see her? And I said, yes. And so I introduced myself, and I was, very nice, went up, shook her hand and everything. And then they said, she said, usually she's not very receptive to men, but she's really taken to you. Her name was Agnes. That's what it was. Agnes, yeah, because my mom's first name is, I just remembered that. And I said, I said, I see her like she would be my grandmother. She's very loving and caring, but she is very protective of the place because she did own this place, and there's a lot of people coming through it, and she's not very happy with that, but I do remember Denise, it's sort of, with you asking that question just a moment ago, she says, that she's not usually very receptive to men, but she's really taken up to you almost like you're a family member, So I think a lot of times it's really how you present yourself to the spirits, but we had sort of a kindred spirit thing going, that night. She was very nice to me, so.
Well, that's really interesting that you mention her appearing as an apparition, because Denise actually said she witnessed a very similar one who she thought to be Agnes Finney, and she actually gave me a sketch that she drew. It's on my website right now at deviatus.com/Pridemore for the episode that released today. She called it a hollow-eyed entity, and in her interview she was saying that she couldn't see anything in the eyes, but she very much described the hair up, the old garb, and in the picture, I'm looking at the picture right now, it's very reminiscent. I'm wondering if this is the same entity that she saw.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where with eyes, this is my weird thing, even with normal people, like real life people, I never notice people's eyes. So it's something that, and you think for something to being 2 inches away from my face, I would notice that. But it was like this overall thing, I saw her hair, or I saw the skin, I saw the dress, but I didn't see her eyes. It's not registering to me. I couldn't get any detail from my memory from that.
Mm-hmm. And what's really funny, Jeremy, with you mentioning the eyes, I remember one of the things, I know it's sort of switching what we're talking about, but when I saw Sallie during the investigation for the first time, we actually were in the nursery, and they were asking, how I saw her. I don't ever remember seeing the picture that Tony had drawn of her, but when I went back and I sort of write these things down, so I can look them up later, with the little bow in her hair. But I remember one of the things that I told them was her eyes. She just had this glisten to them, and it's you ever see like a dog or cat, that you just got to go up and give them a hug just because the way they're looking at you. And that was the look she was giving me. Like, I want, you to come up and give me a hug and everything. I mean, I will never, ever forget the eyes that she had. They were just so innocent, so big and so loving, and they were glistening, but that was one of the things I will never, ever forget from that house.
Yeah, the nursery, I feel like, was the most intense area of the whole house.
Okay. Now, you guys, I know you jumped to the investigation part, but a lot of what you told me was just during the walkthrough, right?
Correct.
Yeah, well, I saw Agnes when we did the walkthrough when Denise was there, and she gave us her spiel, and then we went back to the hotel room. And then when I saw Agnes, it was right when we came back the second time, when we were just setting up for the actual investigation.
Okay.
So that's when I saw her.
I saw her when Denise was taking us through the walkthrough, because she was telling us sort of each room, the best spots, and what type of equipment, seemed to work the best. But when she came to the room, I just saw her sitting in the rocking chair. But that was during the walkthrough.
Well, I want to point out the equipment because, having been out with you guys a few times, I know you have a barrage of equipment, just about everything you can think of.
It's too much sometimes.
Yeah. What specific equipment did you use for this investigation after speaking with Denise?
Well, we pretty much used everything that I can think of. I mean, the SLS camera worked well with catching apparitions. It's basically like an Xbox Kinect with a laptop that sort of sits on the back of it, and it will let you know when it maps out, something that would have like a little stick figure when it sees arms and legs and a head. Mm-hmm. We've actually had, where we've actually talked with spirits and got them to wave at us, or, to work with us that way to let us know that what it is mapping is correct. One of the things that we did in the nursery, which I thought was really cool, is on some of the shows that you see on TV when they do the Sallie House, they actually have the stuffed animals in a circle, just like you see, on the shows. And we actually set an audio recorder there. And we sent a REM pod there, to catch any movement, because, we were on the first floor when we first started. Nicole, do you remember any equipment that worked?
Oh, yeah. We pretty much had multiple cameras in every room, plus some cameras. They were infrared, too, so that picks up more of the stuff. Also, we all did the Paranormal Puck, too, which was where I think we were one of the first teams to get that from Bill Chappell, right?
Right, yeah.
So we did actually a really good Paranormal Puck session in the dining room. I remember that's when it started kind of messing with Stan. I feel like, what was the question that asked? It's something like, what do you want? And it said, your body or something. And it was
trying to channel.
Yeah, and it kind of lines up to what I experienced in the nursery room too, which we can go into further when we discuss that. But the Paranormal Puck was cool because it actually, you'll be typing, you can type a question in a computer, and then there's this little pod thing that we put on the table, and they can communicate almost like an ovulus to us, which is like a dictionary mode with words and phrases. So we were getting some hits, and I feel like we got a couple things that really lined up to like a tarot cards with the cups. Mm-hmm. And we're getting a couple things like that, which I thought was interesting. Mm-hmm. But we mostly did that. We did get some hits on the REM pod too, because we took the REM pod from the living room upstairs. So I remember when we were kind of going crazy. We had the SLS camera where Anita and Greg were getting some hits because something was around Greg. Mm-hmm. And then the REM pod we got a couple hits from, and then you were conducting the Paranormal Puck thing too. Mm-hmm. So we were kind of doing all these three different things to try to line it up so the evidence could back up another piece of equipment with that. And that's what sometimes we do, I feel like, and it comes across really, it just shows that we're double backing on our work for evidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were using the Paranormal Puck too, also in the Pigman's bedroom, and we have a really cool full spectrum. We always take 3 pictures in succession, so that if it is like an anomaly, we always try to debunk first. But there's one I can't debunk, and you see me sitting on the bed. I think Nita was the one taking pictures at that time, and she's one of our remote members. She lives in Sicily right now, and she flew in to go on this investigation with us. And she took a picture where I'm doing a paranormal session, and you see me pointing my finger, and right at my finger, there's it's not quite as big as a basketball, but it's bigger than a baseball, but it's like an orb that I'm sitting there pointing my finger at. And the picture before it and after it, didn't have it in there. So it really, really worked well in that location.
I'd love to see that if you're willing to share it.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we did it in Alpine, actually, by Sarge's grave.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the places we go to, and it comes in really handy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, how much time did you have to investigate the home?
We had all night if we wanted. In fact, she said we could sleep there if we wanted. I made that mistake in Virginia City at the Silver Queen Hotel. And after the team left, since we paid for the room for the night, I decided to sleep there. And I will sleep in one of the most dangerous locations. You tell me, something's there, I'll sleep there. I don't care. It doesn't, bother me. But that was an interesting experience. So I told them if they want to sleep there, they're more than welcome to. But after the investigation, I was just telling them, no, I don't think I'll do that.
Well, we also had to cut it short because something hit you on the head pretty bad. And you were bleeding from the head really bad. Yeah. We're like, it's time. We got to shut this down because you weren't doing too good after that. We were afraid you had a concussion.
Yeah, I climbed into, I don't know if you've ever seen the pictures of the Sallie House, but in the basement, there's a hole in the wall. And one of the TV shows, the guy was like, I'm going to climb up and go in this hole. But of course he didn't, And I was like, I'll go anywhere you tell me to. I'm just like, okay, I'll go sit in this hole. You guys go ahead and do the dowsing rod session, in the basement, and I'll just sort of run my audio recorder. And you have to sort of bend over to get in there. And it's sort of funny. Your husband says, be really, really careful. And Denise was like, yeah, be really careful because I feel like, something could happen to one of you tonight, So I was pretty cool. I was sitting in there probably for about 20 minutes by myself. There was a full spectrum camera that was pointed towards me. And she was telling me that there was a portal there, and I could feel the draw of the energy where I was sitting. Like it felt like, that there was things moving and, coming and going through there. And then I felt somebody sort of, run their fingers down my arm, and then it grabbed my wrist like really, really hard. And I said, okay, I'm done with this. So I was sort of coming out, and you have to bend over to get, to get out. And there was a sort of a cement slab coming down from the ceiling. Of course, I was in total darkness. You can't see anything, So I sort of ran head on into that. So I actually bled in the Sallie House, believe it or not. So,
but we used it for the luminol experiment too.
We did. It came in handy. So I can definitely tell you I wasn't sleepy after that.
Should I tell them about the luminol, or do you want to wait for that, Jeremy?
Yeah, please tell me.
So that was the one cool thing that we decided to do, and I did some research, and I feel like hopefully there's not an FBI watch list right now on me, because I was looking on like how to detect blood splatter and all that stuff, because in the basement, supposedly, and this is one thing, there's a black circle, and in this black circle, Denise has said, and other people who are connected to the Sallie's house said that after the Pickmans moved out, there was a lady who moved in who did satanic sacrifices and some satanic rituals in the basement. So, we always go, okay, well, let's really check this out. So I decided I did some research, and I found luminol, which is really a cool thing. You probably know with it, since you have that medical background experience. And it's basically you spray this stuff in complete darkness, and it will detect any blood or other bodily fluids that have been wiped away or cleaned away within, I think it was an 8-year period. So I tried this, and I'm spraying it, in the basement. Well, I think you were in the hole, the weird dirt wall thing where you hit your head, and I'm not getting anything. And I'm like, what the heck? Am I using it right? And I really did my research on this because nothing was showing up. But then when you hit your head, we went up to the kitchen, and you had a little blood on a handkerchief or something because you were bleeding from the head pretty bad. And we tried it there, and it definitely showed up. So you were like the neutral guinea pig with that experiment.
Oh, yeah. Never forget that one.
Taking one for the team.
Exactly. And what's funny? I said that as I walked through the hall. I said, I'm taking one for the team because I'm going where no one else will go. So.
Oh, hey, I went in after you. So there.
That is true.
Whenever any guy says that, I'm like, oh, no, I've got to go back.
So I guess I'd like to start with Stan and just ask kind of, have you walk us through each of your experience that you or experiences that you had while you were there. Note anything that, you felt like was really unexplained during the entire stay of your visit to the Sallie House.
Sure. I'll sort of give you a brief synopsis first, and then we can go into individual stories. But what I ran into there was 3 individuals that I ran into there. One, of course, was Sallie. Is there a little girl? And does she answer to the name of Sallie? I would have to say yes. And I saw her in several different locations. I saw her in the basement. I saw her in the nursery. I saw her in the walkthrough as it was in the kitchen door. Again, I mentioned her eyes. They were just so enticing and inviting. There is an older gentleman. When I say older, I don't mean like 60s or 70s, but I would say he's probably late 40s, somewhere in the 40 range. But he's tall and thin. I saw him. He had like a suit on. I know Denise mentioned a doctor that used to live there. I don't know because he didn't mention to me, or didn't really get an indication of what he does there. And then, of course, the homeowner, Agnes, which is the person that one of the first people I saw besides Sallie. Now, the other guy, he was the one that I actually took that he really doesn't like men, sort of the troublemaker, I think, of the 3. And as far as scratches would go, if I could think of anyone getting scratched and males getting scratched in that house, I would have to say that it would come from him. He wasn't very happy with us being there. Especially the guys that was there. I don't know why. He was so adamant about guys not being there, or very challenging to males versus females. I don't know that. Sallie was very loving. I didn't get anything bad from her at all. A lot of people say, well, is she a demon? Is she a little girl? To me, she showed herself as a little girl, and I did not get any negative or bad vibes from her when she came up and even put her hand in mine. The lady, very standoffish toward men, but I really can't see her scratching individuals, as far as males go. But I do definitely get that because I was one of the few people that I actually had to walk out of the house twice. And it just really got to me, almost to the point like a pounding headache, nauseous feeling, that type of thing. And I don't get that in a lot of locations, Mm-hmm. I could go into individual stories, but that's sort of a synopsis of what I ran into while I was there and the individuals that I encountered. So.
Yeah. And then maybe if Nicole would do like more of a synopsis as well. And if you could, we'll move on from there, I guess more of your compelling experiences that you thought maybe were either witnessed or documented on camera or felt by other people, kind of something along that line.
Sure. I'll let Nicole sort of go what she ran into, and then we'll just go into individual stories if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
So first of all, I feel like that whole, and I said that previously, I feel like there are certain parts of the country, especially with cities, where there are just, say it's ley lines, which, it's still, that's kind of iffy because anybody could say there's a ley line on it. But I feel like once you got into that town, you just felt that heavy presence with everything, where everything was magnified. And I even kind of came across it at the hotel we were staying at, which was just like a regular, what was it, a Super 8 or something, mm-hmm. where I saw something. Again, I don't see full-figured apparitions every day. Something that's, I say once every 6 months when we're on an investigation, I'll see something. But at the hotel room, there was a female that was sitting on the end of my bed when I woke up one night before we went for the investigation. I think I was taking a nap. So you're just feeling that presence throughout the whole town. And I feel like there's something there, especially the Native American history there. It left an impression on that land. So once we did the walkthrough, you're feeling that heaviness. And, also it's that pissed off energy because there's people going in there left and right as an amusement. It's not to try to find out about them. They're going in there for, pardon my French, for shits and giggles. Mm-hmm. And it's more of an entertainment factor because they saw it on Ghost Adventures or whatever paranormal TV show it is. So we did that. And during the investigation, of course, like I said previously, I saw Agnes. Mm-hmm. And then that nursery was the most intense mm-hmm. experience I've ever had. I never saw Sallie. I'll be really honest. I connected with her through the dowsing rods, but I never saw or heard her or experienced her, felt her in any way except through the dowsing rods. And with the dowsing rods, I feel, in my opinion, and what we can back up through the dowsing rod session was she came through, and I feel like she never actually inhabited a body. I feel like it was, and that's my personal opinion, but that's what it confirmed in the dowsing rods. She never took human form. Whatever she is, she's kind of loose. That's what the form she wants to appear as. And then we came across the male, which I actually saw a shadow figure of this male, and he was just really tall. I feel like 7 to 8 feet. He's always standing behind Stan when we were in the nursery. And then, I know this sounds crazy, but I think you said it too. He came out, and then all of a sudden you see these black wings behind him, like these dark feathered wings, which I saw like this outline shape of it when we were up in the nursery, and was getting kind of crazy. And those are the two main things, well, actually 3, counting Agnes, that we kind of came across.
And this is when you were both in the nursery together?
Yeah. And
the whole team was in there.
That nursery, so we did the dowsing rod session. That was the most intense dowsing rod session I've ever done. We came across a lot of good information with that, particularly with her. And then what happened was, she came through, and she wants to call herself Sallie, but we don't think she's ever been human. And we don't know if it's tied with some Native American energy to that land, or it's a Native American spirit, but there's definitely two things there. I feel like it's a light and darkness. Mm-hmm. There's a Sallie, which we came across, and then there's this man who also, I don't think, through the dowsing rod session we confirmed, held a human body. He was like the dark. And she slowly pulled away from the dowsing rod sessions, and then that was kind of at the end, and he started to come through. And the thing with this is, I previously had out-of-body experiences, and when I've had them, you kind of feel when it's coming, and you kind of slowly go out of the thing. This kind of felt like that when I had it, when he was coming through, but it almost felt like it was by force, like he wanted to get into me, and I wasn't having that. And then there was this fight. I felt like I wasn't really staying where I was at. I was having that out-of-body where I was pulling out, but I was fighting it. And it was very aggressive, this energy I felt. And as soon as that started happening, I remember, I slammed down the dowsing rods. I'm like, okay, we're good. Mm-hmm. And I ended the session because I knew that was going to go down not a great path. So, and that was the first time I feel like I've ever really been freaked out. I don't want to say freaked out, but a little scared. I'll be really frank with you, as a paranormal investigator, once it was trying to get in my body.
Yeah, I'll always remember the dowsing rod session because I remember Greg was standing in the door. Nicole was over to the right by the window where they have the stuffed animals. That's where we did the dowsing rod session. And I was sitting sort of in front of the bed. And, they said it'd be really cool if Sallie could talk to us. And I said, well, she's standing right there in the doorway. It was right in front of Greg. I said, if you want to ask her a question, she seems very receptive to, to answer any questions. And that's when we started the dowsing rod session. But like Nicole said, as we went along, in fact, I told him when this tall, I just call him the tall, thin man, came up behind her. And I said, there's a male that just, walked up behind her. And I see her as sort of like a light type figure. And then I saw him as like a darker type figure. I could still see what he was wearing or how he was presenting himself to us. But when he came in, things just really, really changed. It came from being very light. And, every single question we were asking, she was answering, on the dowsing rods. You don't always get that, but she was very, very receptive. But when he entered was when everything completely changed, And personally, myself, this is my own personal opinion. I feel like that's what's creating the problems, in the house. Mm-hmm. The other two, I didn't get the pushback from that I did from this person, or the feelings. It was just so strong and so overpowering. And
I also remember a story about that. I remember because as soon as Sallie started pulling away in the dowsing rod session, and this guy came into the picture, and we're starting out like, okay, let's try to give him a chance. But I was like, I feel somebody behind me, and Stan can usually pick up, and he's like, I don't see anything. But then also, I remember it came through on the SLS, and there was a figure that came through behind me on the SLS, which was great because we had evidence that was backing up.
Yeah.
There is something else in the room.
Right.
So that was really, we just got so many hits on that SLS. It was around, Greg, me, and Stan, I feel like, too, because it was also down it was playing with Greg down in the dining room table.
Yeah, downstairs was.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got a picture of full spectrum where there's a because there, like in the kitchen, I sort of discounted most of the orbs. I think it was a lot of dust, and there was so many in there. But in the dining room, they're really, we took so many pictures in there, full spectrum, and I didn't really catch anything. But there's one where Greg is setting up, and you see this orb that's just sort of following him across the room, and it's not like something you would disturb dust, or you'll see several specks, This was the same size, in several different pictures, and it seemed like it messed with him more down there. And it's sort of funny. Greg was wearing the headphones, Jeremy, like you do a lot of times, and had an audio recorder. And I was sort of going through with him, showing Nita, some of the new pieces of equipment she hadn't worked with before. And I always do, Jeremy, you've worked with me on this before, where I do like EVP blasts, where I just ask questions, give 30 seconds, see if we get responses. We hadn't been in there more than like maybe 5 minutes in the house, just setting everything up, getting ready to start the investigation. I was showing her how to use this, and I just had the audio recorder, and that's the creepiest male voice. And I was like, yeah, you do this, and it works this way. And he went, that's right. Like that. And I was just like, I went back and I played it for him, and I was like, okay, Greg, there's 2 males in the room. I didn't say that. That's not my voice. Greg said, that's not my voice. And I'm just like, well, then who could it be? It
could have been me. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah. So it was.
And a frog in your throat.
Yeah. Nicole had a really deep voice that night. But it was, that let us know we were in the right place.
Yeah. And also, I feel like another area that I wish if we had more time would be great to investigate, but it's hard to because it's outside, is that backyard and side area. As soon as we went through the walkthrough, I remember pulling up and we got out of the car. I remember in broad daylight seeing something scurry from the front yard down to the side yard where the trash comes to the back. And that whole area, and that's what I feel like is more the Native American. And I know Denise has told she's seen full figure like Native American apparitions in that backyard, because also there's a little side yard that kind of connects down to the backyard. And actually, I forget one gentleman I was doing the research for, there's a retaining wall that used to be there, and it kind of throughout the years washed away, and there was a back road there. But of course, what happened is, right behind that backyard, there's a river. And so I guess throughout the years, the road or whatever that used to be behind there got slowly eroded and washed away. But there's a tree back there, and, you would go out there at night. I think I went out there to get a breather for like 5-10 minutes. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to get a breather in this backyard either. Because I think either Nita and I were also getting hits back there too for a couple minutes. And that was one area I wish we could just explore for a whole night, just the backyard.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Jerry, my grandmother is Native American. She's Choctaw. And you've seen this before when we've been up in Alpine Cemetery. And there's places that I know that I'm not supposed to go. And I know Denise was showing us the backyard during the walkthrough. And I just remember being on this, like a little patio type thing that's been built on the back of the house. And I remember I was standing there and I said, I'm not supposed to be back here. I said, I can't stay out here. And I didn't catch it at the time, the Native American that Nicole is talking about. But I feel like the reason, with me having that heritage, I shouldn't have been back. Something, some places are considered holy, or it could be, something that was done, a ritual that was done, Native American on that particular piece of land. But I just know there could be Native Americans that are buried there. I don't know. But I definitely think that it does have something to do with the land itself also. And I think it's, creating more of an electrical charge on that land. So.
And I feel like we do with home investigation, sometimes there's not just one reason why there's a spirit there. But this is always the trifecta. You've got it built on Native American land that was probably sacred and holy to them. You've got probably some things that probably happened throughout the years at this house. And then the impressions is left behind, especially with the Pickmans. Because whatever the Pickmans were there, I feel like it opened the door to something. And it kind of left there. And it's still there to this day. Because you got to remember, too, the research shows there was no things of paranormal activity before the Pickmans got there, which I'm not actually just fascinated by, because that shows you like sometimes people just by living in a spot can open up things without them knowing about it. So that's something that I've always been kind of fascinated about.
Well, it makes you wonder, like, who, why though? Did they bring something there that happened to carry something with it? Were they practicing things that, could have opened up doorways? I mean, who knows?
Right. And that's something we get in our home investigations, I feel like. Some people are haunted. And I'm going to be really completely honest. It follows them from place to place. Mm-hmm. Other people, they have certain life events that opens these doors up from them, and then they become sensitive, or these things just draw towards them like moths to a flame. Mm-hmm. And then the third, which, of course it could be rituals or anything like that too. But, I don't think that really lines up to what the Pickmans are, so, because they're pretty American Pie, hodgepodge American family, Yeah. So it's very fascinating to try to find those facets, I feel like. And it's just like an onion, and you just kind of go through the layers with stuff.
Now, you guys tried to do a couple Periscope sessions while you were there. How did that end up going?
Not good.
Oh my God, that's so funny you said that. Yeah, that was hysterical, because also during the investigation, so we try to do a live Periscope, and our Periscope sessions, when we've done them, I think you were at the Alpine one. We almost had like 1,000 hit. Like, it was thousands of people on there. It was great. So I was promoting it because I do the marketing and social media managing for the team. And I'm like promoting it for like the whole week. I'm like, yeah, okay, 1 hour till we do this. And I did a test. And again, Midwest internet connection, not the greatest in the world. And I feel like we're a little spoiled being here in San Diego County. But I remember testing the internet connection all through the walkthrough, just to test it. So I'm like, okay, this place is okay. I can do the Periscope session. And I remember, and it was funny because all my family, all my friends were like, you know what? I really don't, we call it the spooky stuff. They're like, I really don't like the spooky stuff you do, but I'll watch the Periscope sessions that you're doing. So I think you were trying to tune into it too, Jeremy. And so I had it set up. I was like, oh, this is so cool. It's a full moon. Let me start the Periscope session right there with the house behind it. It looks just like something out of a movie. And I do my spiel. I do the intro. I'm like, and now we open the door. And I think as soon as I opened the door, it cut off.
Yeah. But we didn't realize it till later. So we had people texting us, and even the next day on Facebook, like, are you guys okay?
Yeah.
Because they didn't know what happened, and we didn't know that it wasn't working at the time, or didn't notice it till later. So.
And what happened too, so I was like, I went through and I get the laid down through the living room, and then I try to go through the basement. And then when I was in the basement, obviously, and I was expecting to be cut off, then I realized we were completely dead. And I try to reestablish the link by going back outside and trying to relink up, because Periscope is sometimes a finicky creature. And it just did not. I had no internet connection, no cell phone signal, nothing. And your Stan was right, because as soon as we pulled away from the hotel, for some reason, then my cell phone started working up again. And then I got, it was like 20 text messages from everybody and the brother going, are you okay? What happened? And it was actually a general concern, because they knew where we were going, and then all of a sudden it was like something out of a horror movie, and all of a sudden we're cut off as soon as we go into the house. So yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to bring that up. I did have I was wondering myself at the time.
Anything else,
Yeah. Well, let's talk evidence in the form of anything you've captured. Are you finished with your evidence review, and if not, what have you caught so far?
Yeah, we've got a lot. We just started on. We also did the what used to be called the Oddfellows Asylum, but it's the Belvoir Winery now, and we actually started on that one first before the Sallie House. I think we all wanted a break from that, and do that one, last or whatever. But we did 2 locations while we were there, and we started on that one first. I have gone through the full spectrum pictures and some of the audio, not completely all the way through that yet, but a lot of people, they see it as being glorious. Oh, you guys get to go to all these places, and you do this and you do that. They don't see the hours that we sit behind the computer and look at pictures or listen to audio, or we have 4 Canon XA10 camcorders that you got to remember, if you're there for 3 or 4 hours, that's 16 hours of video that you have to go through, and you got to be very careful, not look away from the screen. Listen with noise canceling headphones to make sure you're catching any disembodied voices or EVPs or and things like that. It does take months to get through all of that. So,
and I feel like with the Sallie House, and I'm just being completely honest, I feel like I've got 1 or 2 EVPs from the audio, and I'll forward them to you, Jeremy, for your podcast. But again, we're splitting it up too. This is a splitting up all the video and audio amongst the team, but also we've got the stuff from the Oddfellows home, but then now we're actually right now juggling 3 home investigations. So the 3 home investigations always take precedent over any of the historical stuff, because obviously it's families that need our help and stuff. So right now I feel like it's overwhelming is the word I want to use with evidence. So,
and that's why we split it up.
Yeah, but we did. I mean, the evidence did back up with SLS stuff. We did get some orb photos. We did get the REM pod hits and everything like that. So it was a successful night. But I feel like we did to the 2 locations. We did Oddfellows home and Sallie House. I feel like with Sallie House, it was more of feelings, if that makes sense, an actual personal experience. I felt like, at least with myself, than actual evidence. And sometimes some places are like that, where you have so much evidence. And then the other places were just like, well, I had this experience. And sometimes differentiate between those two is kind of what you kind of do as an investigator. So Sallie House, I feel like, was more of feelings and experiences than some of the evidence, but we still have it. And we've got some great stuff with the
and we'll definitely be going over it, Jeremy. We'll be glad to forward you anything on it. For me, the Oddfellows Asylum had more live evidence, things that you caught. The Sallie House for me affected me more greatly. I mean, it took me quite a while to get past that. Just the negativity feelings, and things that I didn't expect, that didn't hit me as hard through the walkthrough that hit me that night. It affected me a lot more than the Oddfellows Asylum did. That one, like I said, was more direct evidence, things that we caught, voices, EVPs we caught, and things. And I'm sure, as any group out there would know, you only catch about 10% of it live. 90% is when you go back and catch it, on the evidence and listen to it, afterwards and everything. So I'm looking forward to going through it, but I'm sort of glad to get a break from the house. It's not something like Denise I probably would enjoy doing every weekend, because it did take me quite a while to get over the experiences and what I felt, going through that house.
Wow. Well, thank you for offering to forward any of that stuff. Anything I can share on the show would be awesome. So I guess looking forward, obviously you're very busy with the 3 home investigations you have going on, but what's the next big thing for SDPE?
Well, we got a lot.
I always feel hard to stand with this, because I'm like, oh, let's do this, and Sam's like, hold it back, let's take it.
Yeah. As far as, we got a lot of meetups, and I'll let Nicole tell about the one that we're doing for the San Diego Humane Society that we're doing for a charity, and I'll let her go through that, and then I'll tell you about our next historical that we have coming up. So. Okay.
So we do have something for the San Diego Humane Society. We're going to start doing some annual charity meetups, and that's something personally, a goal for me as the marketing person here, that I want to reach out to local historical businesses or any historical locations where we can do these paranormal investigations. And they can charge a ticket price basically, and all that funds, 100% of that charity, that money would go towards their charity, whatever cause they have. So that's something where I really love our club and organization where, this is a completely nonprofit. At the most, this is something that was costing us money every month to do. So I really like that. And that's something we're doing at the end of the month. We were going to do it on the 25th of January, but as you know, San Diego got hit by the biggest storm, I'd say, in 20 years with all this rainfall. So we had to reschedule and put it back for this month, which is going to be in a couple of weeks. And that's completely sold out. And people are knocking on our door for a wait list and everything like that. And we feel awful, but we got to keep these meetups to a limited amount of people, because, of course, we only have so many staff. And also, if I'm paying money to go to these events, I don't want to be stuck with 100 people, because then guess what's going to happen? You're not going to get any evidence. You're not going to have any of that cool experience you have when you do these paranormal investigations. So I'm really excited about this upcoming one and for the future ones that actually I'm planning for 2017 and 2018. So.
As far as our next historical, Jeremy, you're getting ready to get an exclusive. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay, yeah, you're getting before our website, Facebook, or anything. But the second week in July, I've already got it booked. We're doing Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've already got that one booked, and we're working out the final details to do Pennhurst Asylum, which is about 30 miles away. And if you look up the top 10 most haunted places in the U.S., every list, both of those are on, and it has so much rich history. I've been working on this for years to get us in there. So we got Eastern State already booked, like I said, and then we're just working out the final details on Pennhurst Asylum. So, but that will be the second week of July. So you
That's
got
amazing.
to exclusive first.
Well, yeah, hopefully, I don't know. I mean, we have some time here, right? Because we're recording this now, but it might not air for a couple weeks. So that said, do you want me to air this and and put this out there, or do you want to be the first to put it on your site?
No, just
I don't mind.
Yeah,
it. No, not at all. We don't mind at all. It's one of the things I was waiting until I got Pennhurst, completely worked out. I don't think it's going to be any issues or anything getting the final details worked out. But no, I don't mind at all. So.
Well, exclusive content for Deviatus right here.
There you go, Jeremy. We love you, buddy.
Well, thank you. So can you just, before we go, I know we've gone way over time here, but can you let us know where we can find anything and everything SDPE online?
Yeah, I'm going to let Nicole. I'll tell you about the things that I take care of, and then Nicole works so many more sites than I do. One will be our website, which is San Diego Paranormal Eye, and that's EYE. So it's San Diego Paranormal Eye on Facebook. And then if you go to our website, which is also San Diego ParanormalEye.com, I have a monthly column that I do on there called Stan's Column, which tells you sort of what happened last month, what to expect for the month coming up. And then the Facebook, gets updated a lot more frequently because we do things that we work with the movie studios. We just did a exclusive where they got us into the premiere of the movie Rings before it got released to the public. And a lot of times we'll give away. You should check that weekly. A lot of times we'll just throw up a link saying, hey, we got so many tickets to this movie premiere. Download your ticket, first come, first served. Do it quickly. So that would be a good thing if you want to keep more up to date on a weekly basis. And then I'll let Nicole tell about the sites that she manages.
And I feel like as social media as a whole, it's just so many sites and it's so overwhelming sometimes. But yeah, so I feel like our biggest following right now is actually on Instagram. We've got I made some amazing connections through there. And that's San Diego Paranormal. And then we've got also our Twitter page, which is SD Paranormal. And then you mentioned the Meetup too, right?
I didn't mention Meetup, yeah, but Meetup is just meetup.com. We do a monthly meetup, like Nicole was talking about, the one with the San Diego Humane Society. We also, to give back to people and to show them how we investigate and to give them that type of experience. If some of them, they're a little bit leery of the paranormal, or they see things on TV, or they want to see if it really, can happen. So we take the public out once a month, and we have a site called meetup.com, which is under San Diego Paranormal Haunted, is what we're under. Or you can look it up as San Diego Paranormal Eye, either way. And it will let you know the monthly meetups that we do. We do it once a week around San Diego County.
Once a month. I'd go crazy if it was once a week.
Sorry, once a month. Yeah, I think it would drive me crazy too. And we're completely sold out. In fact, we've got our next one coming up next weekend, and we've already got 45 people, and a lot of people on the waiting list text me all the time, like, can I please get in, type thing. So, and
I feel like that's exploded in the last, I'd say, 3 months, because of everything. It's amazing how far we've come in the past year. So, and so if you're in the San Diego, Southern California area, I feel like the meetup.com site is the best way to come out and experience the paranormal. That's how I got back into this, was with this group. I just attended a meetup, and I was like, oh, this is a really great group. And sometimes you come across different groups as a paranormal investigator. You're like, I don't know. And everybody here, it's just like a family. And that's the number one thing. We like teaching people about this. We like to just show them it's not like on the TV shows, but there's some cool things that do happen during a paranormal investigation, show them how to use all the tools and stuff. So that's great. Yeah. And also we have a Tumblr. I can't believe we still have a Tumblr, but we have that too. And somehow I manage all those pages in my free time.
We stay busy, Jeremy.
Yeah. This is all on the side too. So I know you guys have full-time jobs, and you're taking a lot of your spare time out to do things like today with me over Skype, as well as these things. And I can attest, having gone to so many of these meetups, that, you guys are awesome. You got a great team that does put a lot of, I guess, just valuable instruction out there. You let people get their hands on this equipment, and it's just a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. And for anybody listening in the San Diego area, we'd love to have you come out and investigate with us once a month. And like Nicole said, you're welcome to go to our meetup.com page and sign up for that. I would recommend doing it quickly because it does sell out normally within a day. So,
excellent. Well, thanks again, guys, for taking a chunk out of your Sunday to speak with me. All right, before you guys go anywhere, I'd like to go over some of the evidence collected by the team at the Sallie House. Just so you know, this week's show notes can be found at deviatus.com/21. I figured naming the links according to the episode number was eventually going to be inevitable, and since this is SDPE's second time on the show, I thought, why not start now? Once you listen to the following clips, I'd really be interested in hearing your opinions about them, so feel free to comment with your thoughts. All right, this first clip is straight EVP caught on one of the audio recorders. It was not audible by anyone at the time. The team was initially under the impression that it says, keep this one, but let's see what you think. Now, I listened to this several times, and I thought after amplifying it, it says, take his word. We'll see what you guys think, though, in the comments. The second clip was captured using a device called the Paranormal Puck 2. It generates a vocal response that you'll hear towards the end of the clip.
Down here.
I am getting this word image. They're not talking about that. They're talking about a body, soft body.
The question is, are you talking about a body?
Yourself.
Oh.
Now, I thought that was really creepy. It sounds to me like it's saying yourself. You guys think of anything else you might be hearing? Let me know. All right, the next one. This one I thought was something interesting that came through on the Spirit Box about a haunted house. If you don't remember what a Spirit Box is, I have a whole episode devoted to SB7 Spirit Box with clips you can listen to, and I still have a survey open for that one. I'll put a link to that on the show notes as well. But see what you think this one says. All right, so to me, this definitely sounds like a male voice saying this house is haunted, or house is haunted. Now, the next few clips all recorded in the basement crawl space, and they all occurred within about 2 minutes and 20 seconds of one another. Let's listen to the first one. I won't say anything about it, but here it is.
Can you tell me your name?
All right, so to me, this sounds like a moan from a female caught with one of the audio recorders in the basement crawl space. Next one, this one kind of threw me off guard because I thought that it was so close to the microphone that it might have been one of the investigators. This is really, just to tell you a little bit about it beforehand, it's a really loud kind of groan or moan. It sounds male, and the team has confirmed that no one was near the investigator at this time. It was also not audible at the time of the recording. So take a listen. I mean, that sounds really close to the recorder, whatever it is, the microphone. And again, they confirmed that the two other team members were upstairs at the time of this, so separated by a whole story. All right, that's all I have for this week. Thank you again for joining me on this extended episode of Deviatus. Again, this episode's show notes can be found at deviatus.com/21. I'm looking forward to bringing you some more awesome free content to fill your void of the unexplained in 2 weeks. Until then, please subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode, and thanks for listening. Take care.